Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're talking Emily in Paris, Season 2, Episode 10, French Revolution. You guys, it's the finale. Ooh, I have so many thoughts to get out. I just can't even believe how it ended. So clearly, you know, this is a recap show. We're going to spoil the crap out of it. Hopefully you've seen it because I really want your comments on this one. Do you like how it ended? Do you not like how it ended? I cannot wait to talk about it all with you. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Before we jump into it, I did want to let you know I have a Patreon now. So check that out. Patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. And you'll find my logo and you'll find us. So take a look at that. See if it works out. The first episode's free. You can watch it here on YouTube. After that, you can check them out on Patreon. We're doing the original Sex and the City series. So the episode starts off with Madeline and Emily at this cafe, and my first note is, what are these boots that Emily's wearing with the big weird pink flower on the side of them? Very strange. So Madeline's had a look at Savoir financials, and she calls Emily her little mole and mosquito because Emily got her the information. So they've invented their own rules, and Emily is upset that Madeline's poking and digging so much, and Madeline is upset at how Savoir kind of has relaxed rules about everything. They're kind of showing the difference between the uptight Americans and the laid-back French people and, you know, that sort of thing. So we go back over to the office. There's a meeting going on, and Julian comes in and says Gregory is... So remember, that's the guy that Emily got on the boat in Saint-Tropez with. He is launching shapewear line, and we see a viral video of him having a meltdown, and you guys, this spoke to my heart. If you didn't catch it, Gregory is yelling as he flips a table, something about 19 times he's been through this. You guys, I'm sure you know it, but if you don't, that is a reference to Real Housewives of New Jersey. When Teresa flipped a table, she literally says, "You've been engaged 19 times." To another cast member. So I love that plug. I thought that was fantastic. Okay, so everybody's freaking out. Okay, so remember that Pierre and Gregory are nemesis. And Madeline is saying that everybody's missing the point. What we need to do is swoop in there and become their new PR firm for this new shapewear line. So they bring up, hey, we don't want to rep two different designers. We already rep Pierre. They're in a feud. So Madeline puts Sylvie on getting Pierre to the show and puts Emily on getting Gregory to let the company rep him. Guys, things are getting intense between Madeline and Sylvie. Of course, Madeline being the uptight American, Sylvie being the uptight French lady, and I'm here for it. I think Kate Walsh is doing an excellent job as the person you love to hate in that role. Okay, so, yeah, it's Madeline just doesn't have that, she doesn't get her tone. She doesn't get that she's coming across just kind of as a bitch, you know? And she's bossing people around. They don't like it. We see how it goes down in just a little bit. Meanwhile, we go over to Mindy, she walks up to Antoine playing music. I think this is a little silly. They're still quote-unquote feuding. What is Mindy's outfit here? I'm not a huge fan of that. The dress is fine, but the gloves and hat are overkill. But she does apologize for not being straight with him about where she comes from and her whole family situation. So we'll see. Of course, we wrap that up here in a little bit. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, Emily is trying to get a hold of Gregory's business manager. She really wants to get his attention and talk to him and get him to sign on with Savoir. So she can't get a hold of anybody. She talks to Julian, and he says, I think I might know where Gregory is. So he takes Emily to the club, and you guys, it was so funny. So they go to this hot gay bar in Paris, and Gregory is there. So she ends up sitting down and talking to him and do business while these guys are, you know, good-looking, muscly guys are dancing all around, and it was just kind of a funny scene to me. It made me laugh. So she convinces him, and she even brings up how this is going to serve so much ass that it's taking place at Versailles, Marie Antoinette's house, so let's call it Let Them Eat Cake. Meanwhile, we see Sylvie with the hot photographer there. She is getting ready to go into work, and they spend some time smooching in bed because it's fun to look at this guy. So she's getting ready to go to work, and he hears a noise. He goes to investigate, and you guys, I love her apartment, by the way. It's her husband. He's there, and the photographer is completely caught off guard and surprised. He didn't even know she was married. They have to explain, well, it's a technicality that the husband's been away for years. It's fine. He knows. Okay. So we go over to Emily's place. Mindy is talking because she is performing at a club, and she's very nervous. Emily is trying to work on gathering a crowd to come see her and cheer her on as she performs. Mindy talks about how Benoit doesn't look at her anymore and won't perform the song because he's just so upset with how everything went down. Emily says that the love just doesn't disappear and he'll get over it. Mindy thanks her. And you guys, obviously, this is a big fat hint from the writers, like the love doesn't disappear. I thought it was well done here. And we'll talk about what happens at the end and how I feel about that. But for right now, I thought that was very interesting foreshadowing. I thought it was cool to see that, because I had the same thought. Like, how do you spend all of season 1 obsessing over Gabriel, and then now we barely see him on our screens, and we don't really hear about her thoughts for him anymore. Back at the office, Emily hands over a retainer to Madeline and says she got Gregory to sign for a month, and if things go well, he'll sign on to Savoir. So Madeline is very pleased about this, and then Sylvie walks in. Madeline points out it's almost 11:30, and turns out Sylvie was with Pierre trying to get him to come to the event. So Luke hands Emily a mock-up of the art that's going to go down at this show for Gregory, and it's shaped like a cake, and Luke mentions, too bad there won't be cake there. Feast for your senses. And Emily's like, well, of course there can be cake there. So, of course, it's a reason for Emily to get with Gabriel. She says, listen, I need 80 cakes in Versailles by tomorrow. And I'm just laughing because he's just chilling at this dinner with Emily, and I'm thinking 80 cakes. I know he said he was going to call somebody in, but even 2 people, 80 cakes, how's that going to work? And she says she just needs tiny ones. That's still 80 cakes. Okay. He says, fine, he'll do it for her. It's going to be an all-nighter. He's calling his pastry chef. Meanwhile, Emily says, thank you, thank you. She's hugging him. That's when Alfie walks in. You guys, justice for Alfie. Come on. So he asks what's going on with Emily, and Gabriel says Emily's amazing. There's a time we could have gotten together, but I wasn't honest with her about my feelings for somebody else. And so we're friends, and as friends, I can tell you I'm glad she's with a good guy. And so that seems to help Alfie wrap his head around things and understand that they truly just have a friendship. At least that's how we're led to believe, wink, wink. Mindy talks to the room. Nobody's listening. Of course, as she starts playing her song, everybody gets fascinated and starts paying attention to her. She's a beautiful singer. I don't know if we need it every episode. I've had comments of the same thing, like, why do we have to get a full song in every episode? I don't know the answer to that, but I just love Mindy, so I'm okay with it. Sylvie's at her husband with the most beautiful lunch spot I've ever seen in my life. I don't know where this is, but I want to go there. Let's have a meet up there. They sign papers, and they're very vague on what it's about. At first, I thought, are they getting divorced? That's not what it is. We find out later. He has signed his papers. Okay, no, sorry. She signed the papers of his club/restaurant, L'Orange G, to go to him, and he's going to wire a bunch of money to her. So it's now they're basically dividing assets. That's, kind of what's going on. Okay, it's the day of the show. We're at Versailles, and it is spectacular the way that they have done all of this. It's over the top, Marie Antoinette. We see Gregory giving a speech, not to be outdone. What happens? Pierre shows up, and you guys, he is dressed like, well, this. Pierre makes his grand entrance, and can we take a minute and talk about Emily? What did you think of this look? I thought with her dark hair and dark features, this dress was stunning on her. So the dress itself is interesting because, again, Real Housewives tie back. If you watch Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Whitney just wore this dress to her rebranding. She changed the name of her business. It doesn't matter. She wore this dress. So if you know what I'm talking about, she's blonde. I don't love this dress. I don't love the sleeves and how it's cut. I don't love that it's very high in the front and very low in the back. But I kind of get it here for this fashion show. Sorry, Whitney, I love you, girl, but I don't know if I got it for her rebranding. But I do think Emily looks pretty here. I thought the clips in her hair were a bit too much, but she still looks beautiful. But my favorite part is when Gouery sees Pierre. He says, you magnificent bitch. Long live the king. And I thought that was fantastic. So the show starts up, and Gouery had said, let them eat cake. We see people walking down in shapewear. They have some sort of like deconstructed corsets, and we see them pulling out fans and doing some sort of funky ballet and handstands and twerking and Marie Antoinette hair, and everybody's applauding. So Emily is making this face, which really cracks me up. We see Gouery just beaming at his crowd. He's clearly happy with how this all went down. Then we see Sylvie tap Luke. They get up to leave. Julian leaves too. He kind of makes a sympathetic face at Emily. And after the show, Emily tells Gouery it was genius. Madeline is there and just over the top and energetic, trying to tell Gouery how much she loves him. And he says, who is this pop-up ad and how do I block it? So she keeps talking about the Gilbert group. Well, Pierre walks over and says, it's much grander than anything you all have done for me. I'm firing Savoir. And Emily is completely freaking out. Madeline is like, oh my gosh, no, let me take you to dinner. Let me save this. What do we do? How do I fix this? And he says, you will never understand me, and walks off. So Madeline walks up to Sylvie, and you guys, I love this scene. I thought Sylvie played it so well. Madeline's trying to be mad at Sylvie over this, and Sylvie says, what? You told me to bring Pierre. I brought Pierre. This is your fault. And Madeline says, that's it. I'm scheduling you for a review in Chicago. And Sylvie says, no need. I quit. And so Madeline's like, great. That made my job easier. And Sylvie throws in, the office is coming with me. We all quit. And this was my face too. Exactly what Emily's there. I was like, oh my gosh. They say, consider it your French Revolution. Emily says, why are you doing this? Why didn't any of you tell me? And they say, this isn't personal. It's business. I thought this scene was done so well. Sylvie just killed it. All of them did. I love that they didn't tell Emily, so she didn't have to lie about it. I love how this scene resolves itself later. I love that they had Emily in this dark red lip so you could really see her facial expressions when they delivered this information. I just thought it was a bomb they dropped, and I thought, wow, it's really good. I really like this finale. So then we see Emily out with Alfie. She says, they abandoned me. And everything's up in the air right now. She's having this crisis over all this. And he says, oh, this is such shit timing. But so it turns out his job ended a week ago. And he's such a good guy and so sweet. He's been staying on in Paris because of Emily. And he didn't know how to tell her. So I'd say shit timing telling her right now. But oh, gosh. He ends up telling her he really cares for her. And that he's a train right away. And they can make it work. It's just a bunch of logistics. And you guys, if I didn't love Alfie before, I love him now. I just thought that was such a sweet scene. At the office, Emily walks in. It's empty and dark. Madeline is there. Madeline is over the top saying they did us a favor by quitting. We can hire a whole new staff. You're going to be my little Terminator. That's what she says. We have to do an org chart. Write this down. I need administrative help. So it's just going to be hell for Emily. She's realizing now, oh crap, what's going on? Now I have to be Madeline's administrative assistant. Madeline's saying, can you make me a cup of tea, s'il vous plaît? And Emily's freaking out. Then she gets a text from Sylvie. Meet for lunch, ? So Emily goes to meet them, and it ends up being Sylvie, Julian, and Luke. So we find out here what happened was she sold the shares of her husband's club back to him, so he fully owns it. And the money she got from doing that, she's using to start up a new firm. So Emily's freaking out, saying, well, don't you need clients and office space? And you guys, we find out Pierre actually had to fire Savoir so that way he could take on Sylvie's new company. That's why she was talking to Pierre. I love that. Also, why was it Gouery probably only signed a month? So that way he could switch over to the new company. So she's like, oh, you should have told me before. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. Now you can stay in Paris longer. Take your time to think. Emily is just shocked that they want her. I didn't think you guys liked me. And Sylvie says it's not personal, it's business. Again, the writing here, I loved it. I love that the three of them came together to meet Emily at lunch. They did tell her that some of the clients requested that Emily, be on their case, their projects as well. So clearly people love Emily, and I just thought this scene was so well done and such a nice surprise, especially on the heels of Emily having such a shit day with Madeline. So Emily's talking to Mindy. She's like, my life's been chaotic and dramatic, and this is where Emily bugs me. Girl, you know what to do. You just stay on. You work with Sylvie and the gang. What are you even thinking about? But she's scared. She doesn't know what to do. She says it's a giant mess, and then she says, in Chicago, I didn't fall in love with my friend's boyfriend. And Mindy points out, did you just say love? So she's again referring to her feelings about Gabriel, which is kind of strange, huh? They spent all season convincing us they're not there, and then pop, she's in love. What about Alfie? And she says, I know the distance is hard, but it's just so easy with him. And Mindy says, you're always going to wonder. You need to decide what you want. You need to go talk to Gabriel, be a grown-up about it. So Emily goes to knock on Gabriel's door. She says, I think I'm staying in Paris for longer. Indefinitely, maybe. I think this detour is where I'm supposed to be. She's trying to rush to get the words out, to tell him how she feels. She says, she's trying to tell him, he says, I think I should tell you. And she cuts him off, says, I need to say this before I lose the nerve. The reason I couldn't be with you isn't Alfie, Gabriel. I am. And then she trails off, implying that she's about to tell him how she really feels about him and that she was worried about losing him in the end. But you guys, Camille is there. She's talking about making room in the dresser. She had her headphones in. She didn't hear any of it and didn't realize that Emily was there, and said Gabriel asked her to move in. So you guys, here it is. It could have finally worked. She's telling Gabriel how she felt. She's telling him it was the knowing that Paris was coming to the end that was holding her back. But now that Paris isn't coming to an end, she wants things to work. It's all kinds of options. She has to run out, and because she just can't handle it. She says, that's great. Yay, neighbors. I'll see you around. Well, and then we see this picture of her standing at this most beautiful bridge. I'm dying to go back to Paris. She says, hi, Sylvie. I've made my decision. And the episode ends. It's not fair that they did this to us, you guys. I know I sound like a petulant child. I don't even care. I'm mad. No, seriously. So I thought it was a fantastic ending, actually. I thought it was great how they left it on cliffhanger. I get what they're trying to do. Clearly she's staying in Paris, right? I mean, that can't be it. Come on. So I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously nobody does. My guess, of course she has to go work with Sylvie and the gang. She's already built that up. But what does that mean for Gabriel? And, you guys, Alfie deserves better than her. I really thought I wanted her to be with Gabriel this first season, but they spent the whole second season convincing us that it's not Gabriel for her. So that's why I just don't know what to do with this. I really don't. I don't know how I don't know. This is where I want your thoughts. Leave me comments. Were you mad? What's going to happen? You know what I want to see? I want to see Samantha Jones get her butt to Paris, join this PR group, and then we really have a show. I want to see her stay with Alfie, which surprised me because I really thought I wanted Gabriel, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe she should be with Gabriel and Alfie find somebody better, because I don't like how Emily is jerking Alfie around. He really, truly likes her and is trying to make it work out, and has even stayed on in Paris, a city he does not love, to be with her. And she's doing this. She's in love with somebody else. It's hard. I don't know. So leave me your comments below. I really want to know your thoughts. I really appreciate you sticking with me through the recaps. I hope you've enjoyed them. That's it for me, you guys. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will be talking to you again soon. I have all kinds of other shows I'm recapping, so check them out, and I will talk to you again soon. Stay healthy and safe. Bye-bye.